Where did the Mamathon conference even come from? Not the long blank stare, Jesus.
Okay, so I started Mamathon as a way to help other moms feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated. I was in a challenging season. I had my oldest son, and when he was 1.5, we found out we were expecting a set of twins. Right after him.
Oh, the twins are in that sequence.
Yes.
Listen, she a whole mom of 5 out here.
Yes,
okay,
I have 5 children. So you can be cool with one kid.
You don't need
but then
man.
I went to the doctor and she did the belly scan thing. And I saw 2 bubbles on the screen. And I said, well, ma'am, can you see the baby's eyes already? And she said, oh, baby.
Precious.
Oh, baby.
Little ones.
I was in my early 20s. I was like, man, what am I looking at? And she said, oh, no, you're having a set of fraternal twins, of multiples. And so all of a sudden we went from sort of kind of cool parents with one kid to minivan parents by 25. And I think that when you have a plan for where you'll be in life in your 20s, there can be you have this particular trajectory. Okay, God, this is what I'm looking to you for. This is everything's going to work out exactly like I planned. And when has that ever never been the actual outcome? God has a sense of humor. And so the twins come on the scene. We have no family, close by just because of circumstance. And I was all of a sudden at home struggling through postpartum anxiety, this identity crisis that happens when you become a mom. You get fast forwarded into caregiving and being present for those people in your life. And we give some sacrifices nobody asked us to give. It's who we are as people, nurturers. And so I started to go through the process of figuring out, where am I going next? And I told myself, I got to find me some business to mind. My husband was pastor. He was in school. So, he was doing what he was supposed to do.
So hold on. I'm sorry. Press pause.
Yes.
Do not let the audience miss that.
Yes.
Are you a whole preacher's wife?
I'm a pastor's wife. My husband's senior pastor of a church in Alabama. And we had just gotten there when the twins were toddlers.
Oh.
And so he was, doing what he's supposed to do as a leader, visiting the sick, checking in on shut-in church members and the elderly and our seniors. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. And Mamathon really came about when I said, I am watching the door way too closely, waiting on him to come in and
home.
Save me.
Yes.
Come get your children. And he was always above and beyond, whatever I needed, he was willing to give. But it was but you also have to go be Superman in the world. And it's not fair for me to put on you to be God for me and save me every day. That's a pressure nobody should have to have. No one should have to feel like they're your everything.
But the song say, Christina, song say, you're my everything.
The pressure for any one person to have. And so I told him, I said, listen, I have to relinquish you to go in and do the things that God has told you to do without you feeling guilty about you need to hurry. Yes, come home. Yes, do the thing. I need you here. I do need you here. But if you're going to go visit a family member who just lost their loved one, I can't say, well, I don't feel like cooking tonight. They need their pastor in a reasonable fashion, not middle of the night call, but things he's supposed to be doing, so I found
you don't want to put a bereavement clock. Okay, you entered the house.
Are they
you
done
got
crying?
20 minutes before you need to get home to me and these children. Tell them to wrap up those tears or something wild like that.
And so Mamathon really came. I told her, I said, listen, I got to find me some business to mind. Do you know who I am? I cannot hear just looking when are you coming in the door? I was oh no. So Mamathon really started from a place of, here for the mom that needs to be seen. And then year 1 conference was, oh, baby, I think I want to have a thing. I think I want to have a dinner or something.
Okay.
And maybe it'd be from 5 to 9 or that's exactly what it was. At the Hilton Garden Inn, the hotel meeting room was the size of this table. The dessert was crumbly.
The chicken was dry.
There was no salmon and shrimp, but there was something magical that happened afterwards.
Because they weren't there for the chicken.
They weren't there for the chicken. And so afterwards, all the moms were still in the room and in the hallway cackling. You know how we do as Black women.
We had kiki.
Cackling. And it was 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And the hotel staff was like, hi, people's rooms are right here. Can y'all... there was something magical. And you woke up the next day and all of a sudden everybody was Facebook friends and everybody knew each other. And, and that becomes something where you really want to be that person who brings people together. I think over the years it's transformed because as I as a leader have transformed as a woman with a coaching business and speaking and doing all these other things that I do. the conference has grown as I have shifted to bring in different kinds of women.
No, that's so beautiful. How many people do you recall was at that first event?
Maybe 25.
Okay.
Something like that. I have seen over the years that people have ebbs and flows. So, this weekend was 100 plus, right?
Yes.
Which I feel like, okay, over this amount of time, it should be,
Stop shitting on yourself.
I know, we don't shit.
Yes.
So what I've learned, though, as women is we have cycles.
Okay.
Not just monthly cycles, but life cycles.
Okay, say more words.
Transitions where you were an entrepreneur, you decided to go back to corporate, you now need a different type of support. Or you were working in corporate, you're starting a nonprofit, now you need a different kind of support. So I've seen, okay, I was married, now I'm divorced, I need a different kind of support. Or I was a single mom, now I'm married. Wait a second. How do we do this co-parenting thing successfully? Yes. So there's all these new conversations that are emerging as our life cycles change. Yes. So there are women who come in because this is what I need. The message or idea at phase 3 Mamathon or year 3 Mamathon, which was this, I might not need the version of year 6. Okay. And then the women who are at year 8, 9, and 10 are like, oh, it's up.
Yeah, it's definitely hitting those notes. And I think what's so special about your particular audience is that it's not all entrepreneurs.
Yes.
It's the way you said it was leaders and entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And I said, no, I love that because as a leadership coach, I work a lot with entrepreneurs. I also work with executive leaders. And sometimes these people don't realize that they have so much in common. I may be in a coaching session and perhaps 50% of the session I could be speaking to someone who has a traditional track job, or I could be speaking to an entrepreneur because the mindset issues, the imposter syndrome, the insecurity, they're the same. Everybody's trying to figure out how to show up in a way that is authentic, in a way that is effective, right? And so I love that you bring those people together, that the identity really is a mom of faith.
Yes.
That being the core identity.
Yes.
And then whatever you do for work, whatever field God has you working in your life, come on over.
Yes.
If you are a mom of faith and you have some kind of professionals going on, it's kind of way that you are called to lead a charge in ministry, a nonprofit, or career track. She had so many really well-established C-level, C-suite managers and grant funders. And they were like, oh, yes, we work for the foundation of. And I said, we give out 5 of these grants for these organizations, but we have a different division that gives it. I said, well, tell me all the things.
Talk to me nice, honey. You talk about dollar sign, talk to me nice.
Listen.
Yes.
And so that's so exciting.
And one other thing I'll add to what you said is moms of faith, women leaders with families, right? Because some women don't have kids, but they are caregivers.
Yes.
Or they are, their children are grown and flown.
Yes.
But they're in a season of transition still. And I have seen over time, based on what you said, you have to see yourself as a leader.
Yes.
And not everybody does.
Most people don't. Most people who even unless they have the title, they don't see themselves as a leader. And it's frustrating for me when I would encounter women who I see them as leaders.
And they don't see themselves that way.
This is where the title of my company came from. Yes, she leads.
Yes.
I would say, yes, you are a leader. And I would have to be repeating it. And they say, I mean, maybe. And I'd say, you run a whole business. You have clients. You have a book that's coming out. You're not a leader.
Yeah.
But it also took me having to teach what is leadership because the Eurocentric, male-centered, and also outdated, right? The way that we talk about leadership is only through a title. It's only through those who have, gone up maybe a corporate ladder of some sort. Doesn't account for family. What about those stay-at-home moms or those work-from-home moms? Are they not doing things that are significant, bringing influence, having an impact? Absolutely, right?
Yes.
So it was like we have to redefine leadership in this day and time, this generation, and to include it to not just be narrow to position and title, but about impact, effectiveness, and purpose.
Yes.
And so I think that's one of the ways in which people who talk to women as leaders, there are some women who fiercely own that title, but there's so many more who do the work and relinquish the title and say, well, somebody else will lead. Or, I'm a background person. I did an episode previously, I'm an introvert, so I don't ever be in the front. And I'm like, but you have a brilliant idea. And you don't have to be on the stage in front of 100 people at Christina's conference. But what if you need to present to a board that she wants to put you in front of to get your grand, beautiful idea funded? That's still presenting.
Yes. But I think some of us lie. And I said this yesterday. I was like, y'all tell me one thing. You come in here.
Give me an example.
I love y'all. I love y'all. Some of y'all be lying, all right? And I say this because one of my clients, we were doing the VIP day on Friday, and she said, I don't want to be famous. Like, I see how people treat them online, right? So and I was like, understandable, okay. But then on the backside, she was like, I want to be the person that, they see me in the store and they feel like I'm their person and all these things. And I've had another client say, I just want to do this experience for an intimate group of this many people and all this. I'm like, okay. And then she says, but I see in my vision, I have dreams about my book launch and a line of people waiting for me to sign their books and all these things. And I'm like, these are two completely different identities.
One of these things is not like the other.
Why y'all come in here and lie? Why y'all come to me on this coaching session, in this conference, and y'all just tell these stories as if, I see my next big I see what God is going to do in my life. All this. I believe the bigger thing, the other thing is rooted in insecurity or insufficiency or imposter syndrome or whatever. Well, who has to give you permission to want what you want to want? Like, who has to give you permission for that? The conference could stay at 30 people forever, right? I see hundreds.
Yes.
I see a conference for 1,000 moms who lead and women leaders. And because we need different conversations, right? You can't go to, no offense to any of those, but to the woman who is single, no kids, right? You have a completely different dynamic. And it helps to talk to the mom if you have a child who has a different type of special needs or is gifted, to go and talk to the mom who's raised multiple gifted children, right? Or children who have a different type of need. Or if you have a child with a disability or they're working through something, go find that mama. Go find that woman who's been there and done that. That's her level of expertise. These are different conversations to be had. So when we begin to bring those identities together, you don't have to lie to me. You ain't got to just tell me. You can just tell me, listen, this is who I want to, this is what I really see. Here in this space, I give you permission to brainstorm without constraint, to dream without constraint, or to give me the censored version that you feel is more appropriate. Like, give me the real one so we can actually map out what you want to do on a real scale. I think we are afraid to say that version out loud.